Good morning and welcome to Empowering Women series. My name is Peter McAdams. I'm an author. I'm also an accounting professor and a certified life coach. I specialize in personal and small business finance and also fitness. I help people reach their goals. And I'm so excited to be presenting this Empowering Women series today. The title of it is called The Battle Within and How to Cope with Depression. And we're going to be speaking with Nicole Ayani. Now, Nicole is actually a 38-year-old San Diego native, so she's born and raised here in San Diego County. And she actually started working at a software company. And then at night, what she would do is they would like go out to a karaoke bar, and she was known as like the singer, so she became known as the karaoke girl. So about 14 years ago, she started her own DJ mobile business where they specialize not only in karaoke, but also trivia. And throughout this whole time, Nicole has been suffering from depression. And so she's here to share her story on what happened with her depression, like how it came about, and then also to share some coping skills with you for those of you out there that also may be suffering from depression. So without further ado, it's my exciting privilege to present to you Nicole Ayani. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right, so I'm so excited. Tell me about your story. Like, how did you find out, like, what happened with your depression?
Well, I mean, I didn't really realize I was depressed till I was almost 30, and it took a few sessions to kind of get the idea that this is something that has been affecting me pretty much my whole life. So I think I was just kind of born this way. I think it's just something that has always been a part of me. We used to joke that there are no videos of me as a baby smiling or anything like that, but now I kind of look back on that and go, it's not really that normal. So I think it's something that I've always had. It's always been a part of me, and it's just something that I only recently in the last 10 years kind of learned how to manage and how to deal with it in an effective manner that isn't harmful to myself or anybody else around me. But yeah, it took several years of therapy for me to kind of come to that conclusion and realize that this has been affecting me my whole life.
So now let me ask you, is there like a particularly down point where it made you go to the therapist? Like, what happened with that?
It was a particularly difficult time for me. I had been in an unhealthy relationship for going on 3 years, and I didn't feel like I could get out of it. It was my self-confidence, my self-esteem was just in the tank. I didn't think anybody else would want me, so I kind of just stuck around. And thinking that way and getting into that mindset, it was a downward spiral. And then my best friend from high school passed away unexpectedly, and that kind of was the catalyst for me to get help. So dealing with that death, it's still something that I have to deal with on a daily basis and, kind of work through my process. But that's what kind of pushed me over into finding help.
Okay. Now you shared with me prior to going on air about specifically who was it that actually saved your life. Can you go ahead and share that with us as well?
It was a family member. I don't want to get too much into the family stuff, but it was somebody who came to me and basically just said, look, we can tell that there's something wrong, and there's a person that I know who you can talk to, and she's helped me. And honestly, it really did save my life. It got me to become stronger, because, I realized that there wasn't going to be an easy fix. Through therapy, I realized that if you're only feeling maybe 10% better, that's 10% better than you were. And that's a stepping point, and it's almost like a ripple effect, because all of a sudden you realize you feel 10% better, and that makes you feel 15% better, and then you feel 20% better, and then you just kind of like realize that this is a manageable thing, that this isn't a death sentence. You can manage it, and you can live with this, and you can navigate your way through the pitfalls, and it took time, and it took a loving and caring therapist, and that's something that I think that people don't realize is you need to find somebody who really works for you, who you can feel comfortable with, and you have to really go through the process. You have to almost like interview people. Like if a certain therapist doesn't work for you, doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to work for you. And I got lucky, and I hit it off with my therapist right away. And she's somebody who still, like, we don't see each other on a weekly basis like we used to, It's more maybe month to month I get a text message from her and she's just like, I just want to check in on you and see how you're doing. And I mean, to have that support and know that I can always go to her even now if I'm having I've had a really rocky year so far, and it's taken everything in me to just maintain, like, not to get back into that dark pit that I was in 10 years ago. But being able to call her and being able to use her as a resource has really been a benefit for me.
Okay. Now, let me just say this, because you mentioned that you didn't realize it. At the time that the person recommended this therapist to you, did you know, like, did you right away just like agree with, like, do you understand that something was wrong, or did you kind of like?
Oh, yeah, I knew something was wrong. I knew that I was in trouble. I knew I needed to do something about it. I just didn't think anybody really cared, because that was what my depression was telling me, was that nobody cared whether I was okay or not. And to know that people really cared and were concerned, well, it made me kind of go, okay, maybe I do have something to live for. Maybe I do have something to try to fix. You know, I mean, I found the will to fix myself, basically, because I didn't have it before.
Right.
Yeah. So knowing that really it pushed me. It really did.
So now you mentioned that this therapist that you have, you kind of got lucky to begin with, but initially when you first met her, like, what was that about? Like, how was that, to actually openly talk to someone you don't know?
Honestly, I really think she was always meant to be a therapist, and she actually became a therapist later in life. She didn't until her 40s. She went back to school and got certification and everything, and so I don't even know what she was doing beforehand, because she's so amazing at it, and she just, it radiates this light that you're so comfortable, immediately. And she's a little quirky, and she's got her own little style. And it just puts you at ease, and just, I like to think of her as like my fairy godmother, because that's what she reminds me of. She reminds me of a fairy godmother. She's got a cool hair, and she's always dressed really cool. And so I'm just kind of like, it's somebody who, I know that she's been doing it a long time, and she just has that personality where she's able to kind of put you at ease, that I've recommended her to several of my friends, several of my family members, and she's really, I think, helped a lot of people, and she's just amazing.
Cool. Now, you mentioned you had some coping mechanisms that you want to share.
I think we froze. I'm like, I think you might have froze for a minute.
Did you hear my?
I didn't hear your question. You froze.
You had some coping mechanism that you wanted to share.
Well, yes. So basically, throughout my therapy, I've learned how to kind of talk myself out of my low points. So we've addressed it, that there's basically a baseline that everybody's at. And my baseline is just a little bit, my normal state, my depression state is a little bit lower than my baseline. And so if I go too far into like a deep, dark depression, it takes me a couple weeks to kind of climb out and go above my baseline. I definitely have good moments. But in order to do that, I've learned that there's certain ways to kind of talk yourself out of feeling negative and feeling down on yourself. And so for me, I've learned I imagine myself as a big red rubber ball. And I remember I just think of myself as being like dribbling a ball. And so the ball's hitting a low point, but it always bounces back up. And so when I get into a low point, I just kind of think I'm a red ball, and I'm going to bounce right back up. And it really does help to focus on that. And it helps kind of like, I think, focus my mind into not feeling negative, not feeling bad, and to focusing on getting into the next stage, which is always going to be a more positive step, because once you go down, you can only really go up. And once you realize that, and you realize that you're not going to be down for the rest of your life, it makes it easier to kind of get back up. I tell my friends a lot of times that, you can visit Depression Town, but don't unpack and live there. And that's part of it. Like, when you're down, you're just kind of visiting Depression Town, but you're going to leave and you're going to go back to your normal life. You just have to realize that this is not permanent. It's just, it's a low point. Now, for me, I experience probably more low points than an average person who, if you're living with depression, you do. That's just kind of how it is. I know that there are different levels to my depression. when I was really bad 10 years ago, I had this really negative voice in my head. He used to just tell me all the time, like, you're not worth it. You're a waste of air. Like, nobody really loves you. Like, you're kind of disgusting. And to not feel that way now, to like, I tell my therapist, she asks me sometimes, she goes, did you hear I go, it's so quiet. It's easy for me to ignore it. But when I was really bad, it was just like screaming in my head. Like, this is just how you are. So now it's like a little, I'll hear it every once in a while and I'll just be like, whatever, you're stupid. So it's gotten to a point where it's not running my life for me anymore. It's just this tiny little negative thing that is always there, but I can ignore it now. So you just learn through coping mechanisms how to ignore it. You have to just kind of like focus on the things you can control in your life, because it's easy to get bogged down into the things that you can't control. Things that happen to you that there's no way you could have controlled it. There's no way you could have stopped it. And you're gonna feel sad about it, but you can't beat yourself up about it because there was nothing that you could have done to change it. And so what you can do is maybe focus on what you're eating, or focus on working out, or focus on like making your bed, brushing your teeth, little things every day that you can do that make you feel like, okay, I accomplished something, and now on to the next thing to accomplish. And that's kind of how I get out of my depression now, is I focus on what I can do to make myself feel better and to make myself feel more empowered and make myself feel like I'm in control. And that's basically what I focus on.
Okay. You also mentioned too, sometimes therapists recommend that you do drugs. So what was the deciding factor for you not to take the drug?
I'm not really like, okay, I'm okay with antidepressants and anti-anxiety, and I think it works for a lot of people. And I think that there are definite times when it's necessary. But for me, I'm nervous about going through the whole figuring out what the right cocktail is, because you start off with, there's no single dosage that's going to work for everybody, because everybody's brain chemistry is different and you're going to react to things differently. So they might start you off at what they consider like the normal amount, and it might make you more depressed, or it might make you like manic, or you don't know how it's going to affect you. And so then they have to go back, and then they have to go like try a different cocktail, and they have to try a different dosage. And I just don't really feel like I can handle going through that process when I'm down. I don't feel like it'd be beneficial to me, especially since therapy has worked so well. So if therapy wasn't working as well as it is, it would be definitely something I would look into. But for now, for me, therapy has brought me back from the brink. And so if I could get through that without medication, I feel like my depression most moments that I have now, it's anywhere near as bad as it was 10 years ago. So if I didn't need it then, I can probably get out of it now. Now, if it's getting to a point where I feel like I'm not, then I'm gonna look into it. But for right now, I mean, I feel like I'm able to talk myself out of these moments effectively with my coping mechanisms. And if I need to, I can call my therapist, and it does help me. And I think that it's something that you need to kind of make that decision on your own, really. What you would feel comfortable doing, even if therapy isn't working, group therapy might work better. If you have more people who are feeling the same way that you are. And I think actually that's the key to managing depression. People think that they're the only ones feeling this way, because it's easy to feel that way. It's easy to feel like you're the only person who thinks this way, who feels this way about yourself. But everybody goes through this. Like, everybody has these moments. Everybody feels depressed. Everybody feels low self-esteem. Everybody is their own worst enemy. And once you realize that, it also makes it easier to kind of deal with people, because maybe you'd be like, what is wrong with this person? Why is she this way? And then you kind of start thinking, you know what? I've kind of acted that way before, and I was thinking this way when I was that way, and you kind of start putting yourself in their shoes, and you go, okay, maybe this person just needs like a mental vacation. Maybe this person is like, here's my therapist. You should probably talk to her. You know what I mean? Like, you can help people when you realize that everybody acts this way, everybody feels this way. You're not. I mean, everybody is special, but you're really not special here. Everybody feels this way.
Now, Nicole, your job, you're actually like in the public eye. How does that affect it when you're going through depression, or like those down times?
It actually can help when I know that I have work to go to, and it gets me out of the house and it gets me around people. Because I mean, I'm the type of person that when I'm depressed, I close myself away, lock myself. I never leave the house. I recently started cooking, and that's almost made it worse because now I never have to leave the house to go get food, or I just go to the grocery store and I'm upstairs cooking all the time. It forces me out of my comfort zone, you know. But at the same time, you know, I do have some social anxiety. Like if I'm one-on-one at a party, like I don't like going to parties where I'm not working because then I have to like socialize on a one-on-one basis. Mm-hmm. But if I'm working, it's more fun for me because I'm actually doing something. I have a purpose. I'm doing something, and then people come up and talk, and I can multitask. So it's weird how I've got my comfort zone now expanded to being around like a lot of people. But on a one-on-one basis, it's still like difficult for me, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And so now tell us about your singing career.
Oh, good Lord. If you can call it a career. I mean, I've been singing. I've been able to sing my whole life. I used to make my family suffer through little shows. I mean, I'm not even joking. There's shows, and we would do like dance stuff, and it was like so silly. And then they bought me one of those mobile karaoke machines when I was like little, like I must have been like 7 or 8, and that was just like amazing, you know. And then I look back, and I was always into music as a child. Like I've always been interested in it, and we would play Barbies, and I would always be the DJ, you know what I mean? Like, so it's something that I've always just kind of done. And then I fell into doing theater. I took voice lessons. I took dance lessons. I took piano lessons. I've always been very artistic. And then I started doing theater. I did a couple shows in Moonlight, and I've done a bunch of shows just all over like San Diego County. And then when I got out of high school and started college, you know, it became more of a, you need to do something that you can fall back on type of deal. And so I chose business because, I mean, really, you can apply business to anything. Right. And so I got my business degree, and I was kind of resigned to the fact that I was going to be doing human resources or accounting for the rest of my life. And then because I was working part-time at a software company, we would always go out every weekend, and we always go to karaoke, and they would always make me sing because that's something I've always been able to do. And I got a call one day, and a coworker's going away party, and it's, you need to come out and you sing. It's karaoke. Nobody's good here. I showed up in my gym clothes. I was just, and I sang, I was really into disco at the time. So I sang Last Dance by Donna Summer because that was just my jam. And I got everybody up dancing because my coworkers were my friends, you know, and they love it. And so they were all dancing like it's everybody else dancing. And the host asked me after, and he goes, "Have you ever thought about doing this?" And I was just kind of like, I've never thought about it, but I mean, I'd probably be good at it. And that basically 14 years later, it's where I'm at, you know. I mean, I was working for him for a couple years, and I learned the ropes. I mean, he basically like taught me a lot, but it also showed me where I wanted to go with things. And then just naturally over time, I got my own equipment. I started booking my own shows. When I first started, since I fell into it, I didn't really have to try very hard to book shows because they kind of just fell into my lap. And then things over time, in 2011, one of my staple shows that I'd been at for 8 years, Acapulco's, closed out of nowhere because the company just was not doing well. And then I was forced to kind of like get out of my comfort zone a little bit and start becoming like a salesperson. That's not my normal mode. And I had to force myself to go out and pick up new shows in order to survive, really. I went back to working during the day, but it was never something that I really wanted to do, like working in cubicles or doing administrative stuff. I've always thrived doing this. So I forced myself. I got out there. I booked new shows. I got to the point where we had to bring in new karaoke hosts and new DJs. I've got a bunch of people working for me now. We've been working all over San Diego County. We're branching out now into trivia because that's like a hot like button area in the bar scene. Also, bar games are becoming like a big thing. So, I mean, it's been a learning process, but it's been fun, and it's been something that I've really thrived on. You know, I mean, I've found my niche. I found where I feel like I feel like a leader. I feel like I'm in charge, and it's like it's worked for me, you know. And it's not something that I ever really realized that I'm an alpha female, but I'm an alpha female who suffers from depression. So I mean, that's just basically, you know, that's just kind of what's become of it, you know. And I'm thriving in it, and it's something I love to do, and I don't ever see myself really doing anything else. That's just kind of where I fit, you know.
Okay. Now, do you have anything coming up?
Tonight, actually, well, we always have something coming up. That's just, there's always something happening. So tonight I'm going to be in Oceanside at Tony's Sports Bar in the Harbor, and we're doing karaoke from 7 to 11. It's also Taco Tuesday, so there's a lot of good specials going on. You can get 3 tacos for $5. That's amazing. Come on now. And then there's just like drink specials and stuff as well. It's really cute. It's a tiny little bar, but it's really cute. And we have a really good time there. So that'll be tonight. And then normally on Wednesday, I don't want to even go through the whole schedule. It's going to take forever. But you can
go to find out this information?
Yes, you guys, they can go to my Facebook page. We have a company Facebook page for Diva Entertainment. It's at Diva Entertainment 1. It's on Facebook. Our whole schedule's there. We've got videos. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter. You can find our videos there as well. It's at Diversion, Divarsion. You can find our contact number. You can contact me there if you want to book a show. Please want to book a show, because that'd be amazing. We're always looking for work. We're always looking for work. And we're a lot of fun, and we are professional, and we bring it. It's a good time.
All right. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we close off?
I just want people to understand that depression isn't a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's something that is just part of life, and people need to talk about it more, and people need to realize that it's not the end of the world. You know, there's ways to manage it. There's lots of options out there. There's lots of things available to you. You just have to like really look for it. But I think another thing that loved ones should know is that people aren't going to be willing to work on themselves until they're ready to. And so you can't really force them to. But once they're ready to, you can do it for them, and you can love them, and you can support them. But they have to really want to do it in order to make the changes necessary to be happy and successful in life. And so that's something that everybody needs to kind of realize. You know, and I think that's just something with any kind of mental disorder, you know. I mean, you have to really just want it. You have to want to be healthy. You have to want to be able to live a good life. And once you find that desire, you know, I mean, then everything else, that's half the battle. Right. Really, you know.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing your story. I know that was, you know, not as the easiest thing to do, to kind of open up yourself, you know, but again, right. The premise is this, as you mentioned before, this is something that we need to talk about. It's not something that you should really hoard to yourself, because it's something that other people can benefit from. So I want to,
you know, it can definitely hold you back. And so you have to definitely really want it. But that's with anything in life, you know, right. I mean, you have to really want it.
And like she was saying too, you know, you want to put those little things in place so that it can actually help you. Like how you mentioned about the red ball. I love the red ball.
Yeah. It's a little cliche, but I mean, it works. It really works. So, I mean, if you have your processes in place, it becomes a lot easier. You recognize when you're going into a depression mode. You recognize that you need to kind of work on yourself a little bit more, maybe a mental health break, you know. But it gets easier. It does. It gets easier to do it. It gets a lot easier to talk yourself out of it once you start doing it.
Now, one thing I did want to ask you, though, is there like a trend, like for instance, does your depression last like a week or 2 days? Is there something that you can kind of gauge? Like, how do you know when you're coming out? Like, how do you know when the ball is actually going back up?
Well, I mean, I want to be around people again. when I'm actually feeling good and comfortable and happy, I socialize more with my family, with my friends. I think it's difficult to tell. I mean, I knew I was going into my depression mode, but it didn't last for a week. It's lasted for a few months. But it wasn't anything that was getting to the point that was holding me back from being around people. It just, once it started getting to that point where I was like, I don't really want to be around anybody. I don't want to, like, it was my birthday. I was like, I don't want to celebrate my birthday. And then I was like, okay, there's something going on that I need to, and I called my therapist, and then we talked about it, and then that kind of like forced me to kind of like the upward trend. And it's not going to be an immediate fix. It takes a couple weeks, but you start doing things more that are going to be beneficial to you. You know, like when I'm really depressed, I don't care about, you know, hygiene. I don't care about making my bed. I don't care about a lot of things. So then when you start caring again, that's when you know you're coming out of it, you know? And I think you have to kind of force yourself. Like one thing that a couple things my therapist has told me before that has really helped me. You fake it till you make it. So you slap a smile on your face, and you start, and all of a sudden you're going to realize you're not forcing the smile once after a while. But you have to kind of force it, and then you fake it, and then all of a sudden it just kind of becomes part of how you live your life. The other thing is, she says you have to take care of yourself first before you can really take care of anybody else. Like when a plane's going down, it tells you to put your mask on before you can help anybody else, because you'll be passed out and you won't be any good to anybody else. So you have to do self-care. You have to really take care of yourself, and you have to recognize that if you don't, you're no good to anybody else around you, you know? And so it starts with yourself. It starts with self-care and self-love, and it's something you have to work on every day. And I mean, I'm a testament here. I have to practice loving myself and being comfortable with myself every day.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And again, thank you, listeners, for those that are on live and also those that are going to be watching the recording. And again, if you want to reach out to Nicole as far as her entertainment business, her karaoke business specifically, you can go to her Facebook page and you can find her at Diva Entertainment 1. Or you can actually find her on Twitter or Instagram, and that's at Diva, what do you call it, Diversion? But with
Diversion.
the A?
Yeah, Diversion. Like a pirate.
Diva, Diva.
Diversion. You know what? We provide the diversion to life, okay? You know, you need to get away from your day-to-day life. Come sing a song with us. It's always fun.
Now, you might not be as good as Nicole, and I will say like that.
You'd be surprised. There's amazing singers in San Diego. I'm going to tell you right now. You would be surprised. I'm not even exaggerating.
I would go there and be like, okay, no, I'm not going to get up on stage because they're going to boo me off.
Oh, no, that's the beauty of karaoke. Nobody's going to boo you off. Everybody just wants to have a good time. You can be horrible and still have a good time. I'm not
going to say I'm going to be horrible because I think I'm an excellent singer, but I'm pretty sure that there's others that will maybe,
Oh, good Lord.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been a good time. And thank you again so much for sharing your story. Because particularly when we're talking about mental illness, this is an area where we just kind of we just don't like to share. We kind of keep it hush.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to just pretend like it's not happening. And you have to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you, listeners, for joining us. And my next show will be on Thursday, where I'm going to have someone on. Her name is Tina Honey, and she's going to be talking about another area that we don't talk about, and that's actually date rape. So tune in live again on Thursday, and just find out on my my Facebook fan page to find out the information. All right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you again, Nicole, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.